As many of my longtime Shaycells know, I have sworn off the sport of boxing. Personally, I love to box, but when it comes to watching the sport, I just cannot bring myself to do it most of the time. It gives me hives. It gives me very, very bad hives. And it's because of the fact that, for one, when you've watched MMA for a really long time, boxing, it just is not as entertaining. I mean, it is just that simple. And on top of that, you've got 7 different belts. The top guys never seem to fight each other. The mandatories always seem to suck. Boxing undercards are horrendous. Boxing commissions and organizations are ruthlessly corrupted. And Jesus Christ, it takes so goddamn long for the main event to start of big boxing fights. For some reason, boxing events love putting musical performances before the main event. You have to sit through a concert that you did not ask to go to. Then you gotta wait for the ring walks to happen. Then they start singing all the different national anthems. Then Michael Buffer starts his fucking shit. He finishes announcing both the fighters, and you're thinking, okay, finally, it's time to get underway. But then you notice both fighters are still fully clothed in whatever costumes they decided to walk out to. You gotta wait for them to undress. It's like, dude, I am burning through my Adderall reserves right now. Like, I already sat through 15 fights before this where I didn't know any of the people fighting. And then you gotta wait through all of that just to see the main event that's probably gonna suck. But I will tell you what, the fight between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk was incredible. I mean, that was an amazing, amazing fight to watch. As soon as the fight started, the first thing you notice is the size difference. It was startling. But even with that, it was so impressive how Usyk controlled the center of the ring and kept consistently backing Fury up to the ropes. It's one thing for the much smaller fighter to have a huge power advantage, and that's the thing that allows him to pressure his opponent. But that was not the case here. Usyk was backing him up purely with boxing technique. His ability to slip shots and get on the inside, it was incredible. And Fury, despite continuously getting pushed into the corner, for the most part did a very good job slipping and getting back out to range. The problem, though, that he had in this fight was every single time he got backed up to the ropes, despite being very good and very elusive in those areas, it's a very risky position to be in. The number one defense to your opponent throwing punches at you is to back away and move with them. As soon as that's no longer an option, you are in serious risk of getting caught with something clean. But like I said, Fury is so good defensively in those positions, but he really couldn't risk being there with somebody as good at fighting in the pocket as Usyk is, because eventually it caught up to him. He ate a shot clean, and he was really hurt. It was so impressive that despite practically being out on his feet, he was still moving away, and he even kind of rolled with some of Usyk's shots. This was just boxing at the highest level. It was amazing to see. You know, I see now there is some discussion online about the decision. I don't think you can make a good argument that Fury won this fight. I do not think that's possible. Watching it live, I had both of them winning 6 rounds, with Usyk having a 10-8. But going back, rounds 1 to 3 were very, very close. I give the edge to Usyk rounds 1 and 2. Fury did really well rounds 4, 5, and 6. He started ripping to the body, and you really saw the size and power difference on display there. And he also started timing uppercuts very well. He would land his back uppercut off of Usyk's jabs, and he even had one combination I really liked, which was a right hand to a lead hand uppercut. That was nice. But again, Fury kept getting backed up to the ropes. He was doing very well slipping and moving, but eventually he got caught, and that 10-8 round, I think 100% sealed the deal. I do not think you can make a logical argument that Fury won. Maybe a tie, maybe. One thing is for sure, though, Fury fought like himself in this fight, which is a huge parallel to the Ngannou fight, where he was very clearly trying to knock Ngannou out, which, you know, in hindsight was not a great strategy on his part. I mean, the first punch he threw in that Ngannou fight was a lunging right hand. I mean, that is just not how Fury fights. Fury fights on his bike, jabbing and moving. So it's not like we didn't already know this, but I guess it just sort of further confirms how fluky the Ngannou fight was. Again, not taking anything away from Ngannou, but Fury definitely underestimated him. I mean, he was going at Ngannou face first. I mean, he should have been jabbing, moving, trying to make Ngannou close the distance and then just counter him over and over again. The other event we had taken place was UFC Fight Night, Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy, and boy, oh boy, was that fight hard to watch. I mean, honestly, if I was in Barboza's corner, I would have seriously thought about throwing in the towel rounds 4 and 5. He was having very little success, and he was getting the fuck beaten out of him. Murphy is so goddamn good. And, it's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of people saying, it's time for Barbosa to retire. He doesn't have that fire anymore. He's getting a bit old, All of that may be true. But the big factor that was on display for this fight was Edson Barboza kind of sucks at boxing, and he really got exposed in this fight. I honestly think that, above all else, was the big takeaway in this fight. Barboza's kicks are ferocious. He is so goddamn shredded. He's very explosive. He has a lot of power. But his boxing and his boxing defense, it's spotty. It just is. He does not have good head movement. He's not the best at counters. And he gets tagged a lot. He really has an old school Muay Thai style, which is hands up, tight defense, and just stand right in front of your opponent, absorb their shots, and try to land your own. And that works very well in Muay Thai because you've got those big gloves, you have your hands up, and you're extremely light on your lead leg because you don't need to worry about takedowns. But in MMA, if you don't have really good head movement or really good counters, you're going to be getting tagged a lot. And that is what we saw. I mean, Murphy could not miss with straight shots. And Edson just did not have an answer to it defensively. All he could do was continue to rip switch kicks to the body, try spinning back kicks, and maybe land a Hail Mary shot. Now, I do think it's time for Edson to retire. At 38, physically, he's not going to be getting any better. Skill-wise, a bit old to add in any brand new elements to his game. But it's just such a shame because he really is such a dangerous striker, but he needed to diversify his game more. He started competing in Muay Thai at 8 years old. And yes, that is him as a kid right here. If he, at 21, 22 years old, fully immersed himself into boxing and added that to his game, on the feet, he would have been such a problem. I honestly think he could have been champion with that tweak to his game. Like, imagine having to worry about him ripping kicks on the outside, and as soon as you close the distance, you're now getting lit up in the pocket with punches. It would have been a serious problem, but please follow me on Instagram if you haven't done that yet.